Hi friends, welcome back. I am procrasta-recording. Oh, my brain is just so not wanting to do what I need to do. So I am just going to roll with it because this has been in my consciousness to record or create some sort of content around how my freshly unmedicated, because Southeast Asian countries do not allow you to travel with stimulant medication. For example, medications that some people use to support ADHD, like me. So I am 30 days freshly unmedicated and at the same time have been diagnosed with another condition just before we left Australia that means that it's ideal for me to be on less estrogen than what I was using. So that is one peculiar combination of, let's just say, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think that's what I'm going to call this episode, because freshly unmedicated AuDHD with less estrogen, because I'm trying to wean myself off slowly, according to my doctor's suggestions, just so that no one gets freaked out by me saying that I'm managing my own HRT, shock horror. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. I have to say, when I first was diagnosed with ADHD, which I've talked about before on the podcast, but just in case you're new here or you don't remember or whatever, when I hit my 47th birthday, I thought that I was having a mental health breakdown, or I was having some sort of serious mental health episode. On my 47th birthday, my entire family, who are all firefighters, or most of them firefighters, got called to a major fire at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and consequently I ended up spending my 47th birthday alone, which normally, you know, there's a part of me that absolutely fucking loves alone time. Usually when I am well resourced and settled, I would have been like, yay, I've got the day to myself, I'm going to go and do all of the things that I love to do. But my 47th birthday found me literally sobbing on the floor with all of this horrendous, just old shit coming to the surface. And now I look back and I think, you know what, I think there was a couple of things going on. I was in a very dissatisfying position in my work. I probably wasn't taking care of my health as well as I could have been. My stress was out of control. And looking back now, very clear that I was in the beginning stages, or probably the middle stages of perimenopause, where not only my progesterone started to drop considerably, but my estrogen was doing that up, down, up, down, up, down. And also, we now know undiagnosed ADHD and autism. So long story short, my daughter had an appointment with her psychiatrist about her ADHD, and then he turned around and said, so when are we going to talk about your ADHD? And I was like, oh, I don't have ADHD, because she and I are very different. She has more of an inattentive ADHD, and in my lived experience and her lived experience, we are very different creatures. And I think now, knowing what I do now, it's probably that my autistic traits and my ADHD traits can mask each other so that it appears on the surface that I am coping with life. I remember saying to him, no, I don't have ADHD because I'm like super organized, and I'm the one that keeps everything going at home, and I keep track of all the paperwork and like all these things that I had thought about ADHD. Anyway, he basically just turned around to me and said, yeah, great. You have been so good at masking and so good at finding external measures to take the role of your executive function, which has completely left the building, probably was never in the building. That does not mean you don't have ADHD. It just means that you've been able to mask your way through it. And then, of course, when estrogen starts to fall as well, estrogen and modulation of dopamine are connected. If you are interested in any of that like evidence, science behind any of that dance, highly recommend Adele Winsett, who has actually been on the podcast before. So I'll put the link down below. Since she's been on the show, she's actually created even more support resources for people that are going through perimenopause and have or suspect they have ADHD as well. So yes, long story short, have been medicated for ADHD since I was about, I think it was like October of the year I turned 47. This is the year that I turned 51. So pretty much 4 years, give or take, three and a bit. So I'm going to be honest, when I figured out that I could not bring normal medication into the countries that we're going through, there was two sides to my response. One, which was like, oh, okay, that's concerning. What if I can't run my business without ADHD medication? What if I can't find my way around the world without ADHD medication? And then I had a moment where I was like, Kylie, you got to 47 unmedicated. I'm sure that you'll figure things out. And of course, I'm not traveling by myself. I'm traveling with my beautiful husband. And we are a very good team. He's very practical, and I'm the one that keeps the stuff organized and all. Like we do different things and we support each other really, really well. Apart from the fact that, like, you know, he is one of those people that's like a homing pigeon, and I am someone who can get lost between where I'm sitting and the front fence, which is literally 50 meters away, because I'll get distracted by something and end up walking in the wrong direction. And then I'm like, where am I? I have no idea. So there was a part of me that was like that. And then there was a part of me that's like, okay, you desire to travel through Asia. This is a really strong desire. The wise woman inside of me is like, maybe you're just meant to not be on medication. Maybe now that you know more about how to support yourself, you are taking better care of your health. You do manage your stress levels much better. There's not as many moving parts in your life because you've done a lot of simplifying and setting yourself free from old conditioned roles and all of those things. Maybe you're just not meant to actually be medicated. Maybe there's actually this beautiful lesson waiting in being able to meet yourself, because there's always been a part of me that's like, who would I be if I wasn't, or not who would I be, because I would be the same person, but how would I move through the world if I wasn't medicated through this perimenopause transition, right? Anyway, I have to say, when I was diagnosed with this other thing, just before we left the country, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So I'm going to have to stop ADHD medication cold turkey. Not that I had to go cold turkey, but it's pretty hard to split a Vyvanse tablet because they're capsules. But not only that, I have to start decreasing my estrogen, or I have to deal with this pain that is linked to higher levels of estrogen. So therefore, the thinking is that it can be modulated by dropping estrogen. So far, so good. So touch wood. Touch wood, indeed. So anyway, where I'm going with all of that is there has definitely been good, bad and ugly of a freshly unmedicated brain. And I'm just going to flow through them. So first of all, I have been incredibly surprised at the fact that all the extra stimulation here. So if you haven't been to Bali, most of the places that we've been, apart from Tejikul, we have been in Sanur, which is near Denpasar, near the airport. Then we moved to Chandasa, then Ahmed, which is like east coast of Bali. Then we went to Tejikula, which is north coast, Kintamani, which is central, so the mountain region. And right now we're in Ubud, and tomorrow we actually fly out to KL and then to Vietnam. Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, I should say, in full. And so the majority of those places, apart from Tejikul, they are super busy. Apart from Kintamani, because it's like central Bali, they've been quite hot, very humid, lots and lots of traffic. Often where we've been staying hasn't had any footpaths. So when you're going for a walk, you're not only trying to dodge potholes, dogs that may or may not be friendly, cars, scooters, the constant beeping of the traffic, but also you're hot, you're in an unfamiliar place, just lots of stimulation. Now, even when I'm medicated, usually that would tip me almost over the edge. I've got loop earplugs in generally 24/7, just going through normal life. I'm even in my own house with earplugs in often because I can't stand the sound of the TV. So it is peculiar to me that unmedicated, all of these things have not been overwhelming. However, what I suspect is happening is I am also moving a lot more, like 15, 20, 25,000 steps a day. So that means I'm also sleeping more soundly. I'm wondering, because estrogen is an excitatory kind of hormone, like it's an activating hormone. And I know that I'm simplifying the fuck out of that, so don't come for me. But in general terms, progesterone is a calming down hormone and estrogen is a like activating, focusing, getting shit done. And so I'm wondering whether the combination of dropping the estrogen and the increased movement, which has therefore given me better sleep, is giving me more bandwidth. Because at home, I have not been sleeping well at all, particularly the last like 3 months since we decided that we were going to go overseas. I've often been awake at like 1 or 2 o'clock. I'm staying up too late because I'm stressing during the day, and then I want downtime after everyone goes to bed. So I've been probably averaging 4 to 5 decent hours of sleep, whereas here I'm averaging at least 7, if not 9, sometimes 10. And I've started wearing my Garmin again. I'm interested in what the sleep tracking says because, you know, ex-sleep scientist, like I'm always interested in sleep architecture. And if I'm comparing my sleep architecture to when I was in Australia, even for the last year, I have not had great quality REM sleep, which is when you do your dreaming and your emotional processing and filing and making sense of the world, and haven't had great slow wave sleep either, which is the deep rest, the regeneration, turning over of cells, the thing that gives you the like, oh, I'm getting out of bed and I feel rested. And I have just been putting them down to, oh, I'm just aging. I'm waking up unrefreshed because, oh, that's just what you do when you're getting older. And now I'm thinking, So that has been one of the good things. And I'm also, the other thing that I think might be contributing to that is that I think that the ADHD, because I always think about autism and ADHD as like two almost competing needs, wants and desires. And I used to always say this before I was diagnosed. I used to say, you know, I've got two parts of me. One that desires security, knowing what's coming next, routine, being in my own home, being around people I know, familiarity, and one that needs new adventure, novelty, innovation, challenge, color, interaction, liveliness. And it's always felt like there's been two like competing and like push me, pull you almost, right? I'm wondering whether the ADHD part of my brain has been bored, like out of control bored. Because there has been such delight and awe bubbling up in me so often here that I am like, my husband keeps on saying, oh my God, you've just got that look on your face all the time. It's like I'm looking at this beautiful pink, like bright pink frangipani flower. Now, we have frangipanis in Australia. These frangipanis are a whole other breed of frangipani. They're like bright and they're vibrant and gorgeous, and it's something that my eyeballs don't usually see. And I love, can you see in the background? Like I love all of the spiritual side of Bali. I'm constantly like, I want to know what that statue means and what that practice means. And I love all the offerings that they have everywhere. And I love so many different things. And so I wonder whether this need or thirst for newness and adventure and dopamine has been so dead and depleted that I haven't given myself some of the things that the truth of who I am has needed for such a long time. And that's why I have more bandwidth around this stimulation. Because if you're just looking from a stimulation perspective, there is way more stimulation in this country. But then as I'm actually I was talking about this with a client, the other thing that's popping up in my mind is when you're out in amongst all of that stimulation, the part of your brain that needs to keep you alive is very fucking on board. And it kind of, actually I'm just making a connection as I'm talking to you. So I love being on the back of a motorbike because there is just enough sense of thrill and danger that my brain stays focused and it makes me feel really, really calm. Now, people with normal brains don't understand that, but it's almost the same here, because when you're out on the street, it's like literally, if you're not paying attention, if you're not focused, if you're not like being in the moment and making sure that you're not going to go towards the pack of dogs that doesn't look friendly, or step in the hole in the footpath if there is one, or step out in front of a scooter or a car doing something crazy, if that part of your brain is not on board, you may not survive getting down to the yoga studio and back or whatever. So yeah, that's one of the good things. And what else? I think bad things are what are coming to my mind as well. I think one of the bad things is the getting started on tasks I have found really tricky. And I think that there's several contributions there. We've been here for 30 days. We've been in 6 different locations. So on average, we've spent about, well, the shortest time 2 nights and the longest 7. But particularly the last 2 weeks, we've just done short stops because we've been making our way from North Bali back to where we need to fly out from. My brain, like the autistic side of my brain, is not getting enough routine, it's not getting enough environmental cues, and it's not getting enough satisfaction of that need and want to be just stable and grounded and know what's coming. So that part of me is struggling, I think, because it feels like the kind of epicenter of the, okay, now we're going to sit down and do a newsletter, or now we're going to create this content or whatever. And so I've been trying to hold that really lightly, because it's almost like the first 30 days has felt a little bit like we've been on holidays, even though we know, like mentally know, we're not on holidays. It still does feel like a holiday. But now, after a month, I'm really, really craving knowing where we're going to be. And luckily, the way that things have unfolded is that we will actually be in Vietnam in the same place for about 5 months. So I'm calling them the bad, but I think the bad has been more of a challenge of like, oh, okay, so the cues that usually get me started with things, like being in my office in an environment where it's like, okay, my brain knows that this is where we work, this is where we open a task manager and we look at what is coming up. I'm not using a task manager at the moment. I'm doing that deliberately because I really want to see how else my brain wants to adapt or suggest completely new and novel ways of moving through a work week. One of the things I really wanted to break up with was the addiction with like a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday way of approaching my work, because I don't desire to be working full time, but I also notice that because I'm bored, coming back to point number 1, I create busy work so that my brain gets a hit of ticking something off a to-do list instead of going and living life. So I'm wanting to break that pattern, right? So I haven't wanted to use external executive function stuff. I'm wanting to get used to using my internal cues to go, actually, I have this desire to create something now, and I'm going to ride that wave of inspiration and just allow it to be that easy, right? The environmental cue has been tricky as well, because the reason I'm sitting outside is because inside our beautiful suite, there is actually nowhere to sit so that my knees can be under somewhere like a desk. So there's like a chest of drawers type of thing, but you can't put your feet underneath. And that the simple things like not actually having a desk to sit at, not having my screen riser, so that I'm finding that when I am working, my neck's not happy. So I'm going to have to solve that somehow. So they've been tricky things, but I don't feel like the bad of being unmedicated and also weaning down estrogen has been as bad as what I thought. But I will say the ugly thing, and again, I'm only labeling it as ugly because it fits the title that I'm thinking for this podcast, that the ugly thing has been wildly pronounced emotional swings, like wildly pronounced emotional swings. And they follow a pattern. So again, coming back to the sleep thing, last night I had a creative surge of energy about something I'm creating, which is a brand new program. And I was like, oh my God, I know exactly how to approach that. Yes. and I worked until 12 o'clock last night. Now that's fine on the surface, but it's not fine because I'm used to waking up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. So I did that this morning, and that means I've had 6 hours sleep instead of 7, 8, 9, 10. And my emotional bandwidth is so much less today, And so there is a pattern of the lack of sleep, but also I did not expect to miss home so strongly. I have had multiple nights where I've been crying about leaving. I was trying to get through this episode without crying again. Missing animals, missing our girls. Our cat went missing, so that was 12 days of just thinking we've let him down. I know this sounds ridiculous, but I love animals as much as I love my people, right? Our animals are our family, and I think that that's been even more tricky because our daughter's beautiful doggo died just before we left, and it was when we were away for the weekend, so we weren't there. I didn't expect there to be so much grief and so strong surges of emotion. If you've listened into the episode I did with my beautiful friend Itai Nahari, he gifted me a solar return reading. And one of the things that came out of that solar return reading for the next year with my human design, I move into a place where I have multiple emotional waves. And I've definitely been aware of that since we've recorded that session, and I've been even more aware of it unmedicated. I do think that could also be partly, well, it's everything, right? It's being away from home, not having familiar surroundings. There's a part of me that's definitely a homebody. And so I know that sounds weird when it's like, oh yeah, I've decided to move away from my home for a year. I do love my home, and I love all of my cozy things. And it's going into cool weather where we are, and so I'm seeing our girls putting fireplaces on and getting like snuggly throws out for the lounge and putting a hoodie on, and I just think, I actually hate winter, dead of winter, but I love the snuggliness of it because I'm such a texture person, and here just being warm all the time, it's just a different way of moving through the world. Although I have to say, overall health-wise, I feel like I'm definitely healthier overall, and that comes from movement, right? So I think the ugly part of the unmedicated is just learning to not make any emotion mean anything. Like I notice there's like a kind of part of me that's like, oh no, she's, I'm feeling emotional and this means blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, it doesn't actually have to mean anything. You can allow the emotion to rise and to pass through and honor it by witnessing it. But you don't have to like grip onto it and be like, oh no, what does that mean? Oh, we shouldn't, I find the catastrophic part in me kind of like, have we done the wrong thing? Oh my God, there's someone in our house for another 11 months. And can I get through another 11 months? And I think my response to that is like gentleness. I used to put my kids to sleep by just gently running my finger down between their eyebrows. And that's what it feels like. I'm like, there is like a part of me that just needs some soothing like this. So yeah, overall, I have been pleasantly surprised because I was genuinely concerned. If I was talking to another month and I was still having trouble like instigating the beginning of tasks because there is things that need to happen in my business, maybe I would feel a little bit more concerned. But right now I am feeling, I'm just feeling immense gratitude for the experience of being in this skin suit, choosing this experience and learning more about myself and learning together too, because my husband and I are both people that like taking risks and going on adventures and doing beautiful things. And it feels more like us when we're doing this. And we both knew that there is going to be times when we are like wildly homesick and missing our girls and missing home, missing our little community. And I guess that's the other thing, the wild gratitude is just being grateful for home. And I talked about in the last episode that I recorded a little while ago about like this kind of self-identity concept of being a lone wolf. I am not a lone wolf. I am such a pack animal. I don't have a big pack, but I love my people. And I miss them. And oh my God, the reunion will be sweet, sweet, sweet. And until that time, I'm going to enjoy the fuck out of getting to know unmedicated 51-year-old Kylie, who is doing this wild, crazy thing of setting sail and having no freaking idea where it will take her. We'll see where it ends up.